Hi everyone, this is Mel. We've probably got a couple of comments. Yes, as people can see you, that's brilliant. And as I said, Mel, a few months ago, just shared her story and just put it out there really authentically. And what happened was amazing with the response, and just stuff has unfolded off the back of it. So I thought it was a brilliant story about how when we show up authentically and we share things that are just a little bit edgy for us sometimes, what can really unfold. So just going to quickly say that before we get in is that if you're watching live, then please do comment, ask questions. It takes about 12 seconds for us to see them, so I won't always respond immediately, but I will be looking through and I'll be kind of grouping them together. So Mel's happy to answer questions live. I'll be monitoring as we go along. As I said, if you want us to see your name, then you have to give StreamYard access. So there's a link in the comments above to kind of add that and give StreamYard permission. If you're watching on replay, great to see you. We've eventually got this going. You've missed all that excitement, but still do ask questions because we'll be checking back in and we can always answer them offline as well. So with that, having said that, Mel, we're here in a tech group. So first of all, just tell us about your background and your role in tech.
Okay. Well, my background is where I grew up. So Leeds. I was raised in Leeds in Pudsey, mixed race, brought up by my white grandparents in the 70s on a housing estate. So that's kind of where I came from. That's my background. And I didn't know my heritage at that time. So, you know, I didn't have a father either at that time. So that's where I come from. I was the first out of my family to go to university. And when I'd finished university, and I have to say, so growing up, there were no black faces, there were no brown faces. Going to university, there were a few more. And I joined the Financial Times. That was my first role. Progressed quickly through there, went out to Asia, got into trading and trading systems. So that got me really interested in the whole kind of tech and fintech world. Came back to London for a whole host of reasons, or lots of exciting things happening in the market. And then there came a time where I decided I really wanted to come back to Leeds. That's where I'm from. I wanted to come back up north. So that's what I decided to do. What was I going to do in Leeds? I wasn't really sure. So I consulted for some tech companies for a while, a really interesting health tech company, actually. And then I joined the founding team of a biotech company, of all things. And that was a really interesting journey. It taught me a lot. Didn't get a lot of sleep during those years. My job was to kind of raise funding and finance for the company, structure it, help it grow. That was great. We did all of that. Company's doing incredibly well. And then I decided to go back to something I was far more comfortable with, which is tech. And I worked on a fascinating project that took me right across the north of England, looking at all different kinds of tech organizations, all different sizes, to try and figure out what these tech entrepreneurs needed, what were the challenges. And at the same time as doing that, as I was going into all these different northern cities, I was trying to find out who was actively funding and supporting these tech entrepreneurs. And that was really interesting from a macro and a micro perspective. It showed me a lot about what was going on in tech across the whole landscape. And the biggest thing that kind of jumped out to me was this disparity that's there. You kind of think tech, biotech, STEM. I've worked in all these industries, but you think tech now, it's got to be diverse. It's just one of those areas that should be. And you know, it's not.
It's not, no.
It's not. And that's my passion. And to this day, it's my passion. I'm now working in a position where I can support strategically companies, entrepreneurs across the Leeds City region grow and develop and get the support the business needs in terms of innovation. But again, I want to get underneath this issue and change it if we can, try and have a positive impact.
So we'll come back to that a bit later. But the first, I mean, so as someone who is mixed race working in tech, have you faced any discrimination yourself?
Yeah, it comes in all sorts of guises, really, I suppose. My first in my career, my first recognition of it, I suppose, was, and I was young at the time. I was from the north. I had a northern accent, and I was in London. And I was working in a very, very male-dominated area. My company, but I was going out and talking to senior people at banks and brokers and management consultants and law firms. So often, if I was in a room with men and had male colleagues, even if it was my meeting, the default and the talk to the men in the room. So that used to drive me mad, and I just had to speak up for myself. And I thought, wow, so I can do that. But things like microaggression, and that is a thing. And it comes across in all sorts of different ways. I've had situations where I've built up a relationship on the phone with somebody, not like this, on the telephone, and met them, and they've kind of said, "Oh, you're not at all how I expected you to look." And it's little things like that. Hair. Always, I get asked about my hair. Your hair. Where's it from? And it's like, it's the bizarrest question. Can I touch it? And it's like, okay. So it takes lots of different forms, but it's there. It's kind of, it's noticeable. It's pointing out what's different about you, whether you're comfortable or not, whether you know these people well or not.
And your response is to just get on with it, it sounds like, but it's still one of those things that it's making you question and think about it, and
it does
notice your difference.
Absolutely. It's my way of handling it is either full on or with humour, or to kind of turn it back and challenge it back, try and have some fun with it. Where are you from? Where are you from? That's another great one. Well, I'm from Leeds. Where are you from? From Pudsey, Leeds. Yeah, but really, where are you from? So I just tend to play with it, but sometimes it can be really uncomfortable. And even if I've handled it, often you take something away from that situation.
So the reason that we're here is to talk about you sharing your story, and that's what's kind of this off. So is it June you shared your story? So what got you sharing that story, and what compelled you to do it, and what was it that you shared?
I think on a personal level, I've sort of been exploring lots of issues for a long time, and I've got a very dear friend who happens to be doing a PhD, and she's done loads of research in this space of, racism, diversity, and specifically mixed race, which kind of throws in a whole other set of issues into the mix. So, and I'm pretty self-aware, so I've been exploring this for myself. But then this situation with George Floyd happened, and it had a profound effect on lots and lots of people. I know that. But I found myself thinking about it a lot. I was upset, I was distressed, I was angry, I was all of these things. And I think what started to happen from that was people started to talk and give their views. There was a statue of Edward Cosman that got rolled over in Bristol. And people's opinions started coming out on social media. And I started hearing and learning things about my family, my friends, because all of a sudden things were coming off mute. So that's what I did. I came off mute. So I first shared my story on Facebook. And that was quite a challenge, because again, you don't know what it's going to bring. And I thought, Nickers, I'm gonna put this out there. I'm gonna put it on LinkedIn. And that was a really, really big deal for me, because the relationships that you build with your colleagues, your ex-colleagues, your peers, your network of clients, it is very different to Facebook, to friends. So it was scary putting it out there. But it was around that whole situation and thinking, it's not good enough not to say anything anymore. So that's what kind of drove me to share my story the way I did.
And what was it that you shared? What was the thing that was, and is there anything particular that felt kind of big for you that you shared?
What felt big, because I told my story, and I guess I'm a pretty private person anyway, and I was really aware that particularly that businessy type community, that professional community, don't know a lot about my personal life. So I also put a picture up there because, as lots of my black friends like to tell me, I'm white passing. So I kind of sit in the middle somewhere. I wasn't white passing as a kid. And my grandma insisted on brushing my hair, which meant I normally had a big afro of hair. And I was really quite tan. So there's no getting away from the fact I was a mixed race child. So I kind of put that story out there. I put how it felt for me. I put how I'd approached it. And there's a picture which I don't know if I'm clever enough to screen share on here, but I've got in the background if you want me to.
Have a go. Let's see if we can do it. While you're doing that, I'm just going to flash up. Yeah. So Becky's comment, she's loving the coming off mute thing.
Unmute, yeah.
Hashtag unmute that Mel's been using, which is just fantastic. So yeah.
I'm not stuff around with tech anymore because I know it's distracting. But the picture is my grandma. So we're in the 70s, we're at the seaside, we're walking down some sort of pier or promenade or something like that. My grandma with her pure white hair, a very 70s dress, and me holding a hand in a swimsuit and pumps, and my big hair and a lollipop. And we're just stepping out, and that's how my grandma and granddad handled it.
Yeah.
You know, there was no shame, there was no issue, and I guess that's what I took forward. It was confusing. There were comments I had to deal with in all sorts of different situations, but it was that's what my grandma gave me. It was this strength. You get on, you do it anyway. You're as good as everybody else.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
They showed you that you were resilient and that you could deal with it. And yeah. So tell us what happened in response. I remember reading it and you kind of tagged me in it, and I just remember kind of going, wow, that's powerful. But what happened? What happened and what surprised you as a result of what happened?
I didn't really know what to expect, and I think I did it in a moment of, I'm just going to do this, and then kind of once it was out there, so I thought, okay, I'm not sure how I feel about what may or may not come back. And what was stunning, what was lovely, was the amount of support that came back. What was surprising was the questions and where some of those questions came from, and things that I'd never really considered. So there was a gentleman that kind of responded and asked a question that told me a lot about him and his family and his situation that I had no idea about, because to me, this man was, a middle-aged white man that had this amazing career at Lloyd's, done incredibly well. And what he was actually saying was, you've opened my eyes. Your story about your grandma was lovely. I've got a mixed-race grandson. And I've got questions. I'm realizing that I'm not handling this well because we're not talking about it. So that was really nice. And what happened then was, before I had a chance to respond, other people were sending books and links and content. Other people were stepping forwards from all sorts of different industries, but influential people showing interest, wanting genuinely to get involved and asking me, what did I need? What did I want? What help, what support did I want from them? And I kind of realized how powerful that community from that one post was, because if there's policymakers on there that can influence councils, government, if there's lawyers and IP solicitors, which they were getting in touch, very senior people in investment, in VC, then the reach that they have and the reach that we have collectively really struck me.
And I remember, so because the thing that I shared my story as part of your post, because so the way you put it was really encouraging. The way you kind of put the stuff out there, yeah, it was just kind of encouraged everyone else to kind of get involved and share their story. And I think that was also part of the power about the way you put it, that was just saying we've all got a story, we've all got things to say, and it just speak out. And I remember sharing kind of my perspective on it and just going, well, I haven't felt I could share because I'm white, not really anything relevant. But actually the way you put it was like, actually that's okay to admit that. And I think that was really powerful as well.
I think that was it, and I think that was the really surprising thing, and the thing that enlightened me. And I think it's probably easy for me in lots of ways because I sit in the middle somewhere, so I can open up those conversations. So my black friends feel comfortable talking to me in a very open way, and my white friends do. So it's that being able to talk about these things in a completely authentic and unmuted way, because they need to be.
So from this, Include Me emerged. So tell us about that and how it came about.
So Include Me is a website, and the reason it came about was because of that post, and I wanted to take all that that learning and those voices from the people that had spoken up and capture it somehow and encourage other people to engage, other people to unmute and tell their stories in a safe place where it's okay to do that. So what I created was sort of a community, and there's an area in the website that's called Voices. We wanted to make it really human. So Voices reaches out to different communities. So students, parents, entrepreneurs, business leaders, educators, because those are all the communities that kind of came forwards. And I say to this whole community that has supported me, I can't do this by myself. That's not the intention. And we want to encourage authentic stories, questions, comments from all of these different communities. And the idea then being, what can we do? So it's not just a place for people to go and rant. You can go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, if that's what you want to do, by all means. Come, not all the stories, not all the things that are going to be on there are going to be comfortable. We absolutely appreciate that. But we want people to have a point to it. And if we can see themes and things that we can actually take forward, then those policymakers that I have no idea what magic they work or what they do, but can put things together and then go lobby stuff, are there. They're there to kind of support us. So a place where people can share, a place where people can ask for support from a community that feels okay, and then hopefully a place where we can have impact.
And I think you share, I don't know if you can talk about, so the sorts of people that you're starting to talk to and the sort of impact that you're already starting to have.
So there's been a few very practical situations that have happened. And we're starting to get invited and involved in things. And that's really important because we've got experts in this area, we've got trainers, we've got workshops. So as organisations reach out, we can answer questions, we can give information, we can be a conduit to other things. And we can come out and do workshops. There are people that can deliver workshops. People like the British Business Bank, and it just, warms my heart that they're kind of reaching out to me because they know me, but to this community and saying, can we get involved? Can I be an ambassador with Include Me? And that's absolutely brilliant. I also got invited to their showing of their report, which is all around diversity in the UK. And the results were not surprising, but what's nice is it was delivered in a very no frills way, which is how it needs to be delivered. And the British Business Bank they're doing a more in-depth report that's going to government with evidence of what they found. And they're also making commitments to support entrepreneurs from, diverse communities across the whole of the UK, for areas that particularly need it. So I just think that's incredible. And the fact that they're reaching out and they want information and they want to get to, because I gave them, so they asked for feedback. So I gave them feedback and kind of said, this is one part of it. You've got to accept and understand that, people that are in this position, talking to the British Business Bank, and it is still, quite dominated by men, white men, that have got the right attitude and want to bring about change, but even that can be a barrier. So again, if we act as a conduit to opening up those conversations, then fantastic.
And I think what this really illustrates is it's kind of putting the stuff out there, getting people coming to you, and you've got a natural kind of approach to networking and connecting people. So realizing that, okay, what's being generated, I can't do it all myself, but what I can do is start to connect people up and start to help them have those conversations and start to figure out how to have the conversations, how to admit that there's some bias there, or that they don't really know how to do it. And I think that's really powerful in what you're doing.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things. People kind of want to jump in and make change happen, and there's got to be this recognition of those things, like you just mentioned, unconscious bias. It's there, we all have it. It's almost, looking at these things, understanding them and accepting them before always jumping to that next step. But
I'm going off a bit of a tangent here, but I know we talked a little bit about it before, but that the sort of we don't want to admit that we're racist, and yet actually, because of unconscious bias, we're naturally drawn to people who are like us. And so it's something that kind of naturally it happens, and it's recognizing that it's happening and then doing something about it, rather than going, well, I'm not affected by this. And I think that's one of the really important things to help people see. And
it is, and people respond to that because of that reason. So it's a really fascinating area to open up. And again, one of my colleagues specializes in that, and if you see her workshops, because her approach is, you've almost got to bring it out and break it down and demonstrate it, and then you've got something. It's fine, it's okay, but let's get it out there, recognize it, and then let's work with it. And it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, wherever you want me to share it, Emma, is certainly, on our site, we'll put some of this material up. I'll put some links in. I'll make sure that if people are interested and want to have a look at that report from the British Business Bank, that it's available for people to go off and read.
Well, we'll make sure it's in the group and also on YouTube for anyone that's kind of watching on replay as well. And just a reminder that if you're watching and you've got any questions that you want to put up for Mel to answer, please do stick them in the comments, and we'll pick them up and we will answer them as best we can. Well, and my next thing, who can get involved in this and how? Include me and unmute the hashtag unmute. Who can get involved?
It's a brilliant question, and we want people to get involved, because what's happening already is people connecting, people are asking questions. I am going to try and screen share. Look, I'm going to try it again, just really.
There we go.
Has it come up?
Yeah.
Oh, marvelous. Okay, so this is how the site looks. The reason I'm on this page, because this is the second page, is these are some of the people that I'm talking about that actually commented and supported that post I put on LinkedIn, and have subsequently said, they'll help, they'll support, and they've got incredible backgrounds. So that's nice that you can see those guys. voices. So these are kind of what I was mentioning earlier, all the different areas that we want to talk to and encourage people to get involved with. So as I said, we've got entrepreneur areas, business leaders, educators, all these different areas. And when you go into them, there's a lot of information there and facts. And on each page, this unmute button. So any point in time, you can kind of connect into unmute. And this kind of tells you really what we're about, but there's a place where you can then go, and if it's in a particular area, you can select it, and then you can, you know, raise topics that you want to talk about, tell your story, tell us what an amazing book you've read, respond to other people. So that's kind of the structure of it. And we want people to get involved, and there's lots of ways that people can do that. So it might just be, you know, fill out this form, tell us a bit about yourself, what you want to contribute. Yeah, so that's the idea behind it. It's a nice, fresh looking site. We want feedback. We want people to use it. If things can be changed or made better, we want to hear that. We want people to start using it and putting their content on there. And exactly what you said earlier, Emma, recognise that everybody, every gender, every colour has a voice. And if there's something there, share it. We want to hear. It's not just for a particular community, because this issue isn't just about a particular community. It's all encompassing. And if anybody really wants to do something and has the time to do some marketing or get involved in the workshops or whatever it might be, then yeah, we'll talk to anyone.
Brilliant. And yeah, it is. So, and I think one of the things I'd not quite figured out is how you get your unmute thing in there, but I think you've just shown us a little bit there. And
right.
If anyone has a look and gets confused or has any questions and wants to share their story, then please do drop it in the comments below, or just call out for help. And yeah, Mel will kind of jump in, and I'll make sure she sees it, and we'll kind of help that way, because I think it's such a powerful idea, and it's just starting to take off. So it's kind of in the early stages, so you can be involved in shaping it as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I just had a couple of final questions, and really, so the first one is kind of going back to the theme that you came along with, which is mixed race and discrimination. And what advice would you give to anyone who is feeling discriminated against?
My advice would be, don't accept it, don't take it, don't absorb it. My advice would be, you know, speak out if you can, find support if you can. If you can't do that for yourself, reach out to other people for support. And there are lots of things now. There's lots of advice online. Companies are getting better about having services and independent counselling services. There are a lot of great counsellors out there. If people are really struggling, come to us, and we will have people in our community that can point you in the right direction. Once we know what people are really lacking, we'll keep adding content. So again, if there's content providers out there that have got stuff or events that they want to include in the site that's valuable, that adds value to the community, we want to have it. Yeah.
So you're
there,
but also know that it's not often not personal, this stuff, is it? It's someone coming from a world that they don't understand. They don't understand the world that you're in, and that can be, just knowing that it's not anything about you, it's more about them, can really help as well, can't it?
It is. So it's that support on different levels, isn't it? It's sometimes it's being able to know that people have got different perspective and they've got bias, and how to handle that, how to deal with that personally. Sometimes it might be full-on unpleasant discrimination. So it's what do I do? How do I deal with that personally? But what other advices are out there that's impartial, that's safe, that I can reach out to?
And the final question I had for you is well, what can we all do to increase diversity, reduce discrimination?
Unmute. Talk talk, educate yourselves, ask questions, talk freely. I think sometimes, again, it's hard for people because they don't know how to approach it. And, you know, white people, I get that a lot from, you know, it's clear they want to ask something, that they'll dance around and dress it up. And actually, that can be more offensive. Just ask. Just say it.
And I guess, sorry, just thinking, going back to the thing you were saying about people making comments about your hair or where are you from, rather than kind of asking it in a vague way, being more specific and actually kind of, that's more, it's kind of pointing it out and being honest about what the question you're asking.
No, exactly. And I really appreciate that. That's probably me as well and my stuff. But I would rather somebody kind of say, are you comfortable talking about this? Because I'm really interested. I'd like to ask you about. And I think, again, you know, the title, authentic. If you're authentic, it invites somebody to be authentic back with you, doesn't it? Yeah. So, and it's going to take time, and it's not easy for everybody. But I think talking authentically and honestly, and listening.
Yeah.
Because
being interested in different other people's worlds, and
if you're going to ask and you want to go into somebody else's world, and this is where the bias and white fragility and things like this come in, it's not always going to be easy to hear. But again, what I see happening a lot is people try and rescue or shut you down when you start to say something that they're not comfortable with. So I kind of think genuinely listening. And I think if we're able to do that, and we can really get to the crux of the problems, the issues, what's going on, then we stand a better chance of changing things positively.
So that was my questions. I don't think we've had any specific questions come through on here. Just lots of support from Becky. Thank you, Becky. But I guess so. The thing I wanted to say is just thank you for because unmuting me. I suppose that's the thing that I've not felt comfortable before about talking about racism, and kind of there's some shifts that have happened for me that have made me able to come to you and say, hey, let's talk about this, and I really appreciate that. So there's just a comment from Becky here saying, I only realized colour was an offensive term recently, but look, I had anti-racism friends who were open to discussing it, and I think I agree with that. It was someone kind of it had just been absorbed for me as well through parents and kind of past, and it's like, and then someone tells you and you're like, oh my god, what I've been saying, and it's that realization. But thank you.
It is. And people have got different, you know, there's on Include Me website, there's an article of a young woman that's kind of talking about BAME, and she goes, I really don't like it. I don't like being called it. You know, I don't like the term. So it's hard. It's kind of, if you talk to people, they'll tell you. And I think the one thing that I would like to say is, you know, in Leeds City region, well, for tech companies, there's a lot of support. In Leeds City region, you've got amazing groups like Women in Leeds Digital, headed up by Deb Hetherington and Sarah Tulip. So they're passionate about what they do. Women in digital, but also diversity and inclusion. So, you know, I want to do more with them. You've got organisations like Capital Enterprise down in London. And John Spindler is a massive supporter, and Alison Partridge. And they've actually got, so what they're pioneering is getting investment to the right communities and to Black underrepresented communities. They've got a specific program about that's rolled out right across the UK. So for the tech community, there are places, there are some amazing groups to reach out to. And again, what we want to do on the site is make sure that those links are there. People like yourselves, Emma, that are offering with consultants that will work with individuals or organisations around resilience, diversity, inclusion, all of that stuff. So we need to get some of those directories and contacts out there as well.
So if there's anyone listening in on this that can also provide that support and would like to be connected to, or knows of an initiative that you could connect to, then share that as well. That's really useful.
Yeah,
so,
the more people that do that, the more valuable the content will become on the community side.
So thank you so much, Mel. And we got through it despite the tech issues at the beginning. It seems to be okay now. And thank you everyone that's been watching us and kind of commenting and sharing their stuff. And please do, as I said, if you've been watching this on replay and you have any comments or questions, then please add them, because we will be checking in. So thank you very much, Mel. Thank you for showing up so authentically and just being an inspiration. And we'll see everyone else soon.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.